Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric on our continuing series on the Sega Dreamcast, and today we're taking a look at Crazy Taxi. And when you think Sega Dreamcast, you think Crazy Taxi. This game to me is just synonymous with the platform, even more so than something like Sonic Adventure. To me, Crazy Taxi is basically the imaginary pack-in game that the Dreamcast always should have had, which is to say that it's Sega to a T. Classic arcade gaming goodness, easy to learn, hard to master, quick to play. You can play it for 10 minutes, so you can play it for an hour. But before we get too far involved, if you could do me a huge favor, go down below and hit like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined, we got a Patreon link down there as well if you want to support the channel. But warning, I'm going to have to talk through this entire 10-minute video because Crazy Taxi has a soundtrack from The Offspring. And if you're a viewer that's not as old as I am and you're not sure who The Offspring are, they were really popular back when this game came out, and The Offspring is the soundtrack to Crazy Taxi. Without the music in this game, it is not the same game. They have re-released this game many times, but a lot of those times they lose soundtrack tracks, and that is just a gigantic bummer. But of course I can't let you listen to that because it would instantaneously get a copyright strike because it is copywritten music. But just if you ever do want to play this game, try to play a version with the original soundtrack because that is how it should be played. But like a lot of Sega's arcade games, the concept of this is extremely easy. Within 20 seconds, you know exactly everything you're supposed to be doing. You need to take a fare from one part of town to the other as quickly as possible. You'll see in the top left-hand corner, we have a timer, and in the top right-hand corner, we have how much we've made in money. That is your high score. You can maximize that, you'll see here, as I get close to other vehicles without hitting them, or as I take jumps, we're being given tips. Once we get to the area that they want to be brought to, just stop in that green marker, and you've completed your fare. That is the entire mechanic of the game explained in about 35 seconds. You'll see some of the money symbols are green, some are yellow, and some are red. That's how far the fare is going to be as far as mileage in the game is concerned, and the further you go, the more money you're going to make. But it just feels like the 90s to a T when I look at this. The graphics feel like the 90s, The Offspring is the 90s, even some of the places we're going. We're going to be going to KFC, we're going to be going to Pizza Hut, we're going to be going to Tower Records. Some of the places you bring fares to in this game no longer exist, but if you were around, in this era, you may go to Tower Records. There was one in Boston that I used to stop at when I was visiting a friend who was going to college down there. So for me, this isn't just an amazing game, it's also a time capsule to when I was, in my late teens, early 20s. I mean, granted, you can still go to KFC today. It's not as good as Popeyes, but it's still a store you can go to. But some of the places in this game are just not around anymore. And if for some reason you like KFC more than Popeyes, leave me a comment below because I'd love to hear why, and I'll tell you why you're wrong. But Sega was great at making these type of games. They didn't just make amazing console games, they were a huge leader in the arcade. And this game originally came out on the Sega NAOMI, and trust me, that route I just took was not the route you want to, but you can do anything in this game. It is open world. And these games from Sega in the arcades were just spectacular. They knew how to make an arcade game as good, if not better, as they did to make a console game. And honestly, the conversion from the NAOMI to the Dreamcast, if there are differences, I really can't tell too much because it adds a lot into the game. And graphically, sound-wise, the control, I mean, granted, you're not using a steering wheel unless you own one, but it is the exact same arcade experience, just with more modes and more features put in. And like I said, they have re-released this game so many times, but the original has the soundtrack that you want to listen to. And there is a sequel as well, Crazy Taxi 2, which is a really good game. And then you get to Crazy Taxi 3 High Roller, and that one's fine. But this is a franchise that I really wish Sega would revamp. I want a Crazy Taxi 4. Hell, bring The Offspring back and have them make new tracks just for the game. This is just the type of game that is so much fun to play. You'll see I'm running out of time here, and we'll go to the high score and results screen, and you'll see how I did. And that's as simple as the game is. Pick up passengers, drive them somewhere, try not to have any accidents, and get close to having an accident so you can get more tip money. We earned a little short of $2,000 and we got a Class D license, so we didn't do very good. But that's the thing, you need to play this game more to memorize it, to know where you're going, because once you get used to the map, it's second nature is where we're going. We're going to the original Levi's store. I haven't seen one of those in years. Maybe they exist. Maybe you can leave me a comment if you know where one is. I think this game is supposed to take place somewhere in California. It certainly looks like it. There's palm trees. The hills feel like San Francisco, but it's just a nondescript city to drive around in. And I do think the graphics hold up relatively well. You're going to see that there's definitely some pop in. It's some shallower distances than we're used to on modern consoles, but everything about Crazy Taxi looks good enough to me. And I've said it in videos before, if 3D graphics never got any better than the Dreamcast, I would still be happy playing them, and I would still be happy playing Crazy Taxi. If this game came out tomorrow and I had never played it before, I would be 100% all about it. And, you know, your experience may vary and your mileage may vary with the game. If you didn't grow up with arcades and you like a longer, more story experience, then this might not be something for you. But if you've never played it somehow before and you're into retro gaming and you have a Dreamcast, you haven't popped Crazy Taxi in yet, by all means, you can turn the video off now and go download it and play it however you want to. I'm happy with you guys stopping the video midway just to check this game out. That's how incredible it really is. Now, if there's one strike I would give against the game, and it is a very small strike, you'll see that arrow in the top middle of the screen. Sometimes that can just absolutely lie to you, or it's not actually going to give you the fastest route to where you're trying to go. You really just need to memorize the maps and get better at navigating the world that Crazy Taxi inhabits. But I would say that that arrow can sometimes just lead you astray, and you're going to be a little bit frustrated about it. But that is honestly the only complaint I can think about this game. If you like arcade racing games, if you like Sega games, you're going to love Crazy Taxi. And this is just one of those games for the Dreamcast, like pretty much every game on this list. When I think of the Dreamcast, it instantaneously comes to mind. And I think this was probably Sega at their absolute best when they were making both arcade games and home console hardware. Because in the arcades, this game was amazing. You could play for 2 minutes, you could play for 10 minutes, but in that 2 minutes of gameplay, you were getting a ton of fun packed into one single experience, and it definitely translates onto the Dreamcast. Now, it wasn't the longest game when it came out. You know, you might play it for a couple hours and then not play it again for a week, but you always wanted to come back to Crazy Taxi and play it more. And there's that Tower Records, a store that just does not exist anymore. And it definitely is that way to me still. I can play this game for an hour and then not need to play it again for 6 months. But, you know, 3 months, 6 months, a year down the road, all of a sudden I'm going to get this strange itch to play more Crazy Taxi. I'm going to pop it in and I'm going to absolutely fall in love with the game all over again. But if you want to play this seriously, like, there's a lot of potential for high score challenges. You play this game with friends, you pass the controller back and forth and see who does better. It is a great party game as much as it is a great single player experience, because obviously there's no real 2-player mode. But if you just hand the controller back and forth and see who does better, I've done that with friends before when the game came out and more recently, and it is always an absolute blast to play. And that's just what's so good about Crazy Taxi, is that it is just fun. You have a smile on your face when you're playing it. The soundtrack is great, and again, I apologize I can't let you listen to it because I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube, but it is just fun from start to finish. And this just reminds me of being, you know, 17, 18 years old when this game came out. I got it. I had played it in arcades, and I was so happy to have this at home. My friends and I just played it continually, and that's what you can do with it still to this day. And it's one of those things, these aren't experiences that we get that often anymore. I mean, there's great racing franchises like Forza, like Gran Turismo, Forza Horizon, but they're still not that like pure arcade racing experience. And if you didn't grow up on them, it might not make as much sense, but these arcade racing games, things like Cruisin' USA, Crazy Taxi, and the like, they're just games that are so much fun to play, so challenging, but so quick as well, that they just become addicting. And I wish there's got more of these. I wish that Sega would just be like, you know what, guys, we'll do Crazy Taxi 4, we'll finally make your dreams come true. But short of that, that is Crazy Taxi. I've been talking about it for almost 9 minutes straight, and honestly, it was easier than I thought it would be, because this is just one of those games. It is near perfect to me. I don't think they could have made Crazy Taxi any better. You know, they could remaster this with brand new graphics, and I still don't think it would make the game any better. It might not be the most modern looking game anymore, but it is still 100% outstanding to play. But trust me, don't get on the highway. It's a gigantic maze. It does not help you whatsoever. It's just there to trick you. But short of that, we will be back next Tuesday with another episode in our Dreamcast series, and we'll have videos on Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday as well in those other series. But if you could do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe. I ran out of time again. You'll see the results screen right here. But if you have any questions or comments, I'll leave them down below. Love chatting with you guys, and I left it till the end But because this isn't the arcade game, it's a Dreamcast game, you do get these smaller experience of just little challenge levels. They're not the most exciting thing in the world. The main game is the reason that you're gonna want to buy and play Crazy Taxi, but it gives you just enough extra things to do after you've grown slightly tired of doing the same tracks over and over again, that you can just kind of noodle around. And I will tell you that some of these are extremely difficult to complete, but when you do complete them, you feel like an absolute champ. But that's Crazy Taxi. If you've never played it before, I don't know how that's happened, but trust me, once this video is over, even if you gotta go buy a Dreamcast or emulate it, go and do it. But we'll see you guys next time. I'm in the water. Bye-bye.
Let's give it another go. Maybe next time.